What is up, crypto fam? It is Crux here with Crux of Crypto. And as you can see, I already have the green lights out today. And you might be asking, why are the green lights out today? You guys who've been around the community for a while, you know I like to show the sentiment within these lights. And overly, I am bullish. As you can see, altcoins in the title. You see me rocking the Sui hat. I got on the Doge shirt. And I'm pleased to have all you guys. If it's your first time, I'm Crux. I'm a fundamental analyst. And I specifically focus on crypto. So I do talk a little bit about stocks, a little bit about macro analysis that I'll talk about a little bit later in the stream. But this stream is going to focus those altcoins and why I believe we are personally in the best period to asymmetrically buy these altcoins. I have a good amount of data to prove it. And then also we're going to talk a little bit about the Clarity Act. This is probably the number one most bullish thing that can get us out of a bear winter, which I currently think that we're in. And then we'll also talk a little bit about the Iran situation, the price of oil, gold, and a couple other things. So if this is your first time, make sure you subscribe. I've been working my butt off trying to get this channel to the next level of crypto content. I want to be with the big dogs, and I think I'm right there at the cusp of it. And if I can use all of your support, and if you're also able to leave a comment at the end of this video, that would definitely help this channel grow. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the overall sentiment of the markets. Sitting at just under $2.5 trillion, you have the overall crypto market class. The Bitcoin dominance is the big thing that I look at as an altcoin specialist. We are sitting about 57%, which is fairly on the lower side. As you went through last bull run, 57%, I would say Bitcoin dominance would sometimes trickle down to like 55%, but it would always go back up into the 60s. So it's very interesting to see how the altcoins bled out much faster in the bull market, and then in bear winter we start seeing Bitcoin itself start pulling back much more, which I guess you could have saw that coming if you understand exactly how bear winters work. But moving on, let's go ahead and look at the trending cryptocurrencies of the day. Bitcoin is going to be number one. It's the king, and everybody wants to know which direction it is headed. This past weekend, we got over 70K, which was nice. We went up as high as, I think, $72,000 to $73,000 and have slightly pulled back since. So I'm very optimistic overall with the current state of how these altcoins are holding up in comparison to Bitcoin. So let's continue moving on. We got Bittensor Tao, which is a huge altcoin that I will talk about here in a little bit. I'm a very big fan of this altcoin. It sticks out much different than most. If I can only hold 10 cryptocurrencies, Bittensor Tao is in that top 10. Moving on, I see Pudgy Penguins. I see XRP. If you have some XRP, throw up X's in chat. I know a lot of you guys in my community are big fanatics of XRP. I'm not going to show any clips of Brad Garlinghouse, but I will talk about him a little bit later in this stream. Moving on, we have some Solana. I think Solana is going to be your best risk to reward altcoin right now in terms of the larger caps. Why? Because if you look at if I pull up like XRP, for example, and I see it is down about 62% in the past 8 months. But then if I pull open Solana, we just said 62%. If I pull open Solana, it is down more. And that's because Solana, essentially, their user base isn't as sticky. Let's see, about 71% from about a year ago. So the user base isn't as sticky. We always talk about use cases on on the Crux of Crypto because it's very important. What's the difference between a peer-to-peer network and a meme coin frenzy? Well, there you have it. Is you're going to have more volatile price within that layer one. So I personally believe that both of these projects are solid holds, XRP and Solana. And I actually recently released a short talking about these, in my opinion, are the solidified number 3 and 4 cryptos out there. I put them above BNB in terms of just what I would personally invest in because I only invest in things that I actually use. And then secondly, I put XRP at number 3 over Solana. So I want to hear, it's a pretty controversial take. What do you guys think? XRP or Solana? And I think it's because Solana has too much competition with all these other layer ones. You see, I'm rocking the Sui hat. The L2s within Ethereum's ecosystem are absolutely crushing it. Arbitrum, Matic has popped off out of nowhere. They're starting to gain well above 1 billion TVL. And Solana has some rough competition ahead of itself. So I would definitely put XRP up there over Solana because it doesn't have as much competition. I will talk about Kita here shortly. So there is competition that does exist. Moving on, we got Chainlink. I think this is a top 3 cryptocurrency in terms of use case behind Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I think in terms of interoperability, it is second to none. So Aave is the biggest borrowing and lending platform and has garnished over 35 billion in TVL, but Chainlink is the reason these DeFi platforms and all these layer ones are able to be interoperable because it brings real world data on chain. So very valuable project right there. Not a big fan of Pi Network, so I'm gonna skip that one. Sui Network. So if I'm going at medium risk to high reward, Sui. This guy right here. This is a cryptocurrency. Let's go check out how much is down on the year. This is a project I highly believe in. Miston Labs over there, which are pioneers of what the the DM project was on Facebook Meta. It is down 82%, and I think they're far from over. So what happened last bull market is they had a massive exploit on their biggest platform, which was Cetus Protocol, and a lot of their cryptocurrencies went to zero. So it was essentially a flush out. But a lot of times when you have VC-backed cryptocurrencies where a large portion are given to those venture capitalists very early, they're the ones who get hit the hardest. So for the first time, we're finally seeing smart money get exploited before dumb money gets involved. So a lot of the token holders early on within Sui are going to be the ones that took that price hit right away. And if they were in those meme coins and those altcoins within Sui's network, they felt the pain. And now, I'll be honest, I felt the pain in a good amount of it because I had Blub, I had Loki, and I had a lot of these other projects that are built on Sui. So I don't think there's any, what I would tell you within Sui's ecosystem, the only play I would rather buy possibly than Sui itself would be DeepBook. Everything else is super high risk. So within that ecosystem, I think the parallelization and just like the framework of their layer one is awesome. So I do think that's going to be your best medium risk in terms of high reward cryptocurrencies that, within a bear market, you don't want to invest in the things that are going to go to zero. And I don't think Sui is going to be part of that list. So let's move on. Ethereum is finding its way. It did the Fusaka hard fork upgrade. It's starting to garnish a little bit more momentum going forward. The L2 battle is the talk of the town. L2s are far from over. I think we have one last bull run, and going into like 2030, according to Vitalik Buterin's roadmap, is whenever we should start seeing sharding really take over from the L2s to where eventually I think that main layer will be hosting the brute majority of the transactions. But as of right now, over 90, I think over like 95% or more of the transactions within Ethereum's ecosystems happen on L2s. That includes Optimism, Arbitrum, all these other L2s. So that is a very, what we call fragmented blockchain. It means instead of hosting on the layer one, it's hosted on the layer two, and it is competition as opposed to using the ERC variant token, the Ethereum token, as gas. And really within crypto, we always, again, look at use cases, and Ethereum itself is a gas token. It's gas and governance, but those are the two main use cases for it. Speaking of use cases, we move on to the next cryptocurrency. We have Ondo Finance. So here, hang on one sec. All right, I had to make sure I was live because last live stream I went 35 minutes and I was not live. So I see you guys in chat throwing some comments in there. I will get to those comments here shortly. Make sure you drop some comments because today's live stream is going to be heavy Q&A. All right, moving on. So we got Ondo Finance here. This is a token with zero use cases, honestly, other than governance. So governance is what keeps this thing afloat. I heavily believe in Ondo. I have a good amount of capital that's stored in this asset, and I think over time it will do well. I'm not going to tell you who won between my Ondo and my Canton showdown, but it has gone viral. I'm talking thousands of views. You guys are loving it, and Ondo Finance is one that I would not fade. Another project I would not fade is Dogecoin. So you see your boy Crux rocking the shirt. It says, bruh, what are you doing? In a world where everybody's uncertain if the fiat system is currently even going to exist in the next 10 years, talk about the US dollar here, what better to invest in than JPEG pixels of dogs? So Elon Musk, I think he said it best, is fate loves irony in terms of what this token is. It is a community that has proven that cryptocurrency or value can be anything. And that's what I love about it. There's a lot of people that think exactly the way I do. You're talking about a project that was once worth over $75 billion. And then also X money, if you've been paying attention to some of the posts that are happening on X is supposed to launch next month. So I definitely believe that X Money is going to host some Dogecoin in there. And the world's richest man has biasly targeted Dogecoin. You could at one point buy, and I'm pretty sure you could still buy a Tesla Cybertruck with Doge. You could get a wrap of your Tesla Cybertruck with Doge. So if Elon Musk is part of something, I don't know, maybe it's worth having a little exposure. Moving on, we got some World Liberty Fi, WLFI, project I typically stay away from. Not financial advice. Crux stays away from anything President Donald Trump invest in, and that's just like a personal thing of mine. I think his personal endeavor into crypto has been more harmful than good, but I do think that his overall influence on crypto has been good. So he's the one who got the crypto task force started. He's the one who told the SEC to back off. He is at least what I think the best interest of crypto in terms of where the Clarity Act is headed. So I think he is a good president overall in terms of crypto, the direction of it. But in terms of personally investing, I'm staying away from all of that. And the Trump token debacle proves, how bad crypto can get. It marked the peak of the last bull market. So moving on, we got some Plume, Render, and Virtuals. So let's look at this entire list, right? You have projects like Bittensor Tao, you have XRP, Solana, Bitcoin, all the big dogs, right, of today's trending cryptocurrencies. And then you see Plume. The one project in here that's barely out, like everything else is in the top 100 other than Virtuals. All of these are big projects. And then you have Plume, barely inside the top 400. And you have to ask why. So this project has been beat up over and over and over again. Now, there's a couple of different things that happen within cryptocurrencies that have not come back, right? Not to scare people, not to FUD people out. I personally hold my Plume, but the founder in 2025 did pass away, which is a huge thing. Whenever something like that happens, usually projects pass away with it. And then here's your second piece is if a project rebrands, such as RNDR into RENDER, or like, let's just say Fetch or AGIX to Fetch. A lot of these, there hasn't been a proven cryptocurrency that has rebranded and has survived. So those are your two things that I would definitely look out for is if a founder or if a rebrand happens, then be very wary of what cryptos you're investing in. But I personally hold my Plume still, and I'm going to continue holding it. I don't think it's, I don't think it's going to completely go to zero, but all the projects on this list, it has the highest risk and the highest reward. So we will see if it makes a return. So, all right, let's go ahead and read some questions with you guys. I'm very long-winded there. After this, I'll jump into the fear and greed, and then a couple other things that we can jump into in terms of what altcoins I want to hold first. All right. Your boy Daniel. Let's go, Crux. I'm here. Kita is 1 year old this month. And yes, I was there. Kita's birthday was last week. And I was able to actually not host, but be a guest at their 1 year anniversary event, which was pretty cool. I was able to talk on one of their Twitter spaces. It's a Twitter channel called Key Talk, KEETALK. It's over there on Twitter. I strongly encourage you, go check him out. One of my friends, he actually is the one that actually hosts it, so it's pretty cool. And essentially, they asked people to come up on stage, give their experience about Kita in general. And I found Kita with you guys in a Fundamental Friday Discord session, which is why it's, I kind of hold it near and dear to my heart, is because we found this together. I had about 50 of you guys in that session, and we found that Eric Schmidt, a former CEO of Google, was an angel investor in this project. So I always invest in teams and visionaries, and that stuck out to me. So I'll talk about Kita here a little bit more in a second, but happy birthday, Kita. All right, Mike, he says, Kita is going to be massive in a bullish market. It actually is holding up better than I thought it would. That's true. So I just showed you, Solana is down 70+%. We have big altcoins that are down 80+%. Even the chain links of the world are absolutely getting crushed. Kita, a lower cap crypto, is holding up better. And it only goes to show you. I mean, it's, I believe, the first crypto project to secure a partnership. How do I want to phrase this? it did something with a bank in terms of, I think it is the first crypto project to acquire a bank, if I'm not mistaken. You might want to fact check that one, but it is the first to do something with a bank. So, all right, moving on. Ricky says thoughts on IP story, bro. So Ricky, IP is not a project I typically talk about much on this channel. It's one I personally hold. The only reason Crux bought it is because October 11th, October 10th happened, I think. October 10th or October 11th, the biggest liquidation event in crypto history happened last year. And this was based off of a Oracle exploit on Binance Exchange that sent a ton of altcoins and crypto just down, right? We all felt the pain of that one. But the two that stuck out to me the most was Uniswap, which was down, I want to say like 50% on that day. And then you had Story, which Story was down massive as well. And for those that don't know, Stories, I believe it's own layer one, but it focuses on AI and AI agents. And I do think that is part of the future. So your boy Crux saw a massive discount on this project and he aped in. So I think I threw like $1,000 in, and it's probably like, I want to say maybe closer to 2K at this point. So I was able to get a little bit of returns on that one, but we will see going forward. All right. I see a lot of X's in chat, so we do got some XRP Army Thopa X's in chat. Love you guys. In 5 years, every crypto with TVL will be new to the Mag 7. Could be. I don't think it's going to be 5 years. I would say more like 15 years, because what we have not seen yet is any crypto or any company in the top 250 by market cap in the world, other than Tesla, have any exposure to any crypto. So if the Mag 7 is going to be holding crypto, we need it to happen. And I think once the Clarity Act happens, which I have a strong speculation that by April this year, the Clarity Act should more or less be passed. That's whenever we should start seeing institutions start more or less trickling in over time. Eventually, we'll get into the Apples and the Microsofts of the world. So I don't think the Mag 7 is going to change across the next 10 years too much, because I think AI is going to be the big like the big thing that shifts how society works. And the Mag 7 in its current state is already taking that into consideration. So if I look at Microsoft's exposure to OpenAI, how Anthropic is a private company that is finding its way to the top, and all these Mag 7 companies are they're figured out who the winners are, and they are paying them the big bucks. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars per year contract, which is just wild to see some of these software developers get bought up at those prices. All right, let's read a couple more of these. Bitcoin altcoins. If it's in my bag, I'm DCA, and says V Hunt. So V Hunt, he said he's buying the Bitcoin and the altcoins. What are you guys doing? Let me know in the comments. You can see it in the poll. 44% of you guys are saying Bitcoin. A little bit higher says the altcoins. Also explain why. I want to know why you guys are buying the altcoins than Bitcoin. And this is more just like a brain blast activity, because if you explain it, you start to build conviction, and that's what we do here at the Crux of Crypto. We don't want you just buying random altcoins because Crux is buying it. Just because I said I bought IP, this is a project that Crux knows about, but if you don't know about it, then don't ape in, right? You need to build conviction. You need to do your own due diligence. Think of me as maybe just like a good idea. I could throw a good idea in your head. Now, it could be a bad idea if you check it, you verify it, and it doesn't fit with your thesis. So don't take me for the final word. All I do is do research on altcoins all day. I read white papers, and I try to figure out what's the better risk asymmetrically, Bitcoin or this altcoin, and then I invest. So Ken says, what up? I see a lot of OGs in chat. Shout out to all of you guys. TP Hand, buy anything now and watch the growth over the next 3 years. TP, I kind of agree with you. I think you could buy most things now. Let's go ahead and jump back into the charts a little bit. But these are your trending cryptocurrencies of the day. I think you could buy any of these, honestly, and you should be fine. The only one that I would probably say, and we just saw it get off the list, is Plume. I talked about Plume a little bit earlier. It was up here. It was trending, but it got replaced by your boy Avalanche. So now we have all top 100 cryptocurrencies, and everyone's like, Crux, how do I get my 30, 40, 50x? Bitcoin's not going to get me there. First, I'll tell you, Bitcoin's the best risk to reward in crypto in terms of long-term holder activity. So if I had to hold 3 projects for 15 years, it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink, right? These are your 3 proven winners so far. You got your Oracle, your smart contract platform, and your peer-to-peer network. Next, you have all these other runners that are just trying to be that next piece. You got the Solanas, you got the XRPs, and these guys are competing, and there is value in these. Some of these are going to win, and some of these in 10 years will be worth zero. Actually, most of these in 10 years will be worth zero. Um, in terms of this entire list, I'll quickly go down them and see if I personally would buy them at these prices. And you guys let me know in the comments what you would disagree with. Bitcoin, I think, is a phenomenal buy at these prices. Same with Bittensor, XRP, Solana. Pudgy, I think, is okay. Ethereum's fine. Pi, I'm going to stay away from. Sui, I think, is good. Chainlink, good. Ondo, good. Fetch, I would stay away from. Avalanche, fine. Render, good. Hype and Doge, both good. So going back to Fetch, I'd rather put that money into Tao. And going back to a Pi network, I'd rather put that into Solana or Sui, depending on if you have higher risk. Go ahead and go in Sui. If you have lower risk, put it into Solana. So that's my take on that. Let's go ahead and read some more questions, and then we'll jump into what Crux thinks about altcoins in the current state of the markets. All right, grateful. TVL is a huge factor. Originally, I would have said ETF as well. I don't know any more about that. Okay, so grateful, you're responding to 2 different questions there. I personally like ETFs because they are considered securities and they're held at a different. So, how can I say this? Within an ETF, since the regulation does treat it as a security, it's forced to follow specific regulations where if they issue the share, the capital exists or the underlying asset exists. So I do think ETFs are very good because most people, they don't want to go open a brand new Coinbase account or a Robinhood and buy the crypto directly. They just want to invest through their brokerage. And I think that's perfectly fine. Whether it is a Robinhood, you can buy IBIT or, you can buy IBIT or the actual underlying native currency, Bitcoin. So it's up to that person. But at the end of the day, the security itself would essentially be the safer asset because securities are protected as opposed to crypto assets are not. So if you lost your Bitcoin, like on a brokerage such as Robinhood, the government doesn't owe you anything. But if you lost your security, there are protections set in place for the American consumer. So that's why I do think that there's definitely advantages to ETFs in particular. So, all right, Sila, what up, brother? Hope all is well. I'm sure it's pretty cold out there where you're at. I'm not gonna dox you and tell everybody where you're at, but it's been pretty wild out there lately. I'll tell you that. I see all over the news, but just stay safe out there. Much love, brother. All right, Plume has went to 0, but that means we have found a bottom. Well, I mean, who knows? So there is still some TVL in the project, but it has definitely fallen quite a bit. Let's see. Yeah, it has fallen quite a bit. It's still inside the top 400. I mean, that's not nothing. There's potential there. I just wouldn't, I mean, honestly, I just wouldn't buy any more at these prices. Expect it to go to 0. All right, Mr. J, do we think Kita will make a new all-time high next bull run? I thought a 5 mil market cap, but round tripped the bag. Dang, you bought at a 5 mil market cap, Jay? That's crazy. That's lower than anybody I know. I bought at like a 30 mil, and I thought I did pretty good. So 30 mil, maybe it was like 40 mil that I bought. But yeah, so anyways, your question is all-time high on Kita. I say yes. I think, here, give me one sec. All right, how to get some water. Make sure you're drinking some water. Hydrate. The reason I think Kita is going to get to new all-time highs is because, and not just because I'm biasly like part of that community now, is because they're building that use case that XRP is looking to do, but they're way faster. They chose to do a DAG as opposed to a blockchain like XRP did. So I think there's going to be definitely use cases for Kita to play out. Right. So Kita, I'm a big believer in that one. I wouldn't own over like 1% of a portfolio in a higher risk project like that, but I think it's okay to have some exposure to that one. Hi, Crux, says Angel. TR, if there were to be only one crypto to survive, it would be XRP. TR, you have a very good case on that. I'll be honest with you. What's one thing that separates XRP from all other crypto projects is because of how in bed they are with the banks. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Clarity Act here shortly. You have three different sides of this. One, two, three, right? You have the crypto side, you have the Coinbase side, and then you have the banking side. So what we want is the people that are at least in the Coinbase side or the crypto side. XRP is way over here. They are like, they don't care if all these other things get pushed as securities. They want them out of the way. Brad Garlinghouse has been vocal about that. He is not here for crypto to survive. He's here for Ripple Labs to survive. And as an altcoin specialist, I can't get down with that. So as much as I am part of the XRP army, I love XRP. I think it's one of many other cryptos to do well in the future, as opposed to how they personally, well, how they think as a community at the top down. So I would say like half the people in the XRP community don't want any other cryptos to survive. And I think that's pretty detrimental to the space. I think it's a fair market and all cryptos should get a fair shot, as opposed to being the select ones that get subpoenaed by the SEC. They're able to win the case, they're able to put the cape on, and they can fly forward with all the capital that should be put within all the projects of crypto. So that's my take on XRP. There is definitely a case saying they're the only project to survive. I think it's a very low case, but if you were to ask Crux, three projects that survive, in the next like 40 years, XRP would be one of those. Again, it just has some favoritism that the others don't have. So, all right, I'm buying alts because I bought some things so high. I'm hoping to get a relief bounce and make the dry powder for that 50K Bitcoin. 50K, I think it's going to go 40K, but we will see. 50K Bitcoin, buying some Bitcoin at those prices is amazing. So don't miss that opportunity. The only way to miss that opportunity is if you buy it all at these higher prices. So your boy Crux said 40K in October, and it's looking like he's right. So we will see. All right, I can keep reading Q&As, but we're already 30 minutes in. I haven't even talked much about Crux's take on which altcoins, the fear and greed, and much more. So let's go ahead and jump back into the news. You guys keep putting those questions in there, and I'll jump to them here shortly. So let's quickly look at the fear and greed index. Very fearful as of late. I'll be honest, in crypto, I have never seen the markets this fearful, and I've been here for a long time. So extreme fear from now all the way since last month, but I've been showing this for 2 weeks now, and it's been the same way. So for many, many weeks at this point, we've had just extreme fear. Usually we get some relief bounces and we start to get a little bit of greed, but we're not seeing that in this market. And if we look at the momentum of Bitcoin, we got as low as 60K. And then we got back as high as, I want to say, like 74K. And then we went back down. Then we're starting to range now, sitting closer to about 70, between 70 to 72K at this point. That's kind of, I mean, honestly, I still think we go into Q3 much lower, and then we start moving out of it. And really the way that I want this to happen is the Clarity Act keeps getting pushed right. It all blends together in Q3, and we have this miraculous bottom to where Bitcoin goes to that 40K that I want it to go. We have just crazy good prices in crypto. The Clarity Act gets passed, the institutions buy, and by the end of this year, we are starting to go up and right and getting close to new all-time highs. And it's pretty crazy to think that with just a couple months, you could go from like an October of this year to a just to say the end of the year. So you got like a 3-month time period where Bitcoin goes from like, let's just say 40K all the way up to 100K. It could easily do that, and even higher. It can go all the way up to all-time highs in 3 months. We've seen some pretty crazy stuff happen, and I think that can happen especially as you go to a bottom where it's the most volatile to the upside. If you look at any like of the bear market bottoms from November 2022 or whatever, it bounces pretty hard from like 15.5 all the way up to 25K or 35K within a couple months. So there's nothing saying that can't happen this cycle. So There's a lot of fear going on. Your boy Crux says to lower those DCAs during the fear, but don't spend all your dry powder because I think there's more danger ahead. Moving on, let's go ahead and look at the month to month because this is more or less we're starting to see trends start to break in crypto. And if you look at really the last like 4 months have been red, which is just wild. All right, so you see October here, November, December, red, 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 January, red, February, red. There has never been a 5 month streak. Actually, right here. So go back to 2011. We had July, August, September, October, November, all reds, followed by a December that was a 60% run. And then followed by that was another 51% run, and then a 63 at 178. So the one time we had 5 different reds, I guess right here is another 5. Let's see how it plays out after. So this time you had multiple 50s, a 60, and a 178% run month to month to month to month to month. Is that going to happen again? I don't think so. At least not yet. Maybe eventually as we pull out of a bear market later this year, something like that can happen. I just don't think we're ready for that yet. But here's the other time. So we have red July, August, September. Actually, no, right here. So July, August, September, October, November, December. So there's actually 6. And then we had a green month and then 2 more reds. So that was a pretty rough time right there. And it goes to show you're about 1 for 2 in terms of 5 red months in a row if you're going to have a huge relief after that. I would not bet the house on that, but I would lower the DCA prices on it. So let's move on. You saw the title, very optimistic about altcoins, and this is why. So over 38% of altcoins are currently trading near their all-time lows. That's pretty cool if you're an altcoin holder or if you're an altcoin buyer, right? Now, not so much a holder. So much of us, we're still holding our altcoins. We are down on our bags, at least on a lot of them. And we need to get lower prices, right? So we have to lower those DCAs. And right now is actually the best time in history to be buying those altcoins in comparison to Bitcoin. So I just want to throw a disclaimer on this. Most of these altcoins are going to go to zero. And like I said, I brought up those trending cryptocurrencies at the beginning of the stream. Those were all solid projects that are probably not going to go to zero. And that's a good list of projects to be acquiring at these prices, especially Solana. Solana is just, to me, it's a no-brainer. That the user activity on that chain is still phenomenal. It's down much more than XRP. At one point, it was neck and neck with XRP. So it is just the better asymmetric buy across the board, not just Bitcoin, but other altcoins. So continuing on, we talked a little bit about Kita earlier. When we talk about use cases, peer-to-peer networks is huge. Not all projects are trying to be a peer-to-peer network, but if we're looking at in terms of theoretical TPS, Kita is extremely fast. On its testnet, we're talking tens of millions. Actually, I want to say like 14 million TPS was provable through using Google Cloud on its testnet. And if we wanted to send $1 to every person on Earth, this is how long each of these would take. And trust me, I actually just this weekend sent some Bitcoin from my Venmo to my Coinbase account. It took 3 hours before I saw that Bitcoin in my Coinbase, which was crazy. That's not acceptable if it's a peer-to-peer network. Imagine trying to buy some coffee and waiting 3 hours. And the answer is not, well, you should have used Lightning Network. The answer is, well, Bitcoin should be faster as a L1. So I'm always gonna advocate for the layer 1 not needing side chains and not needing to sacrifice its decentralization for scalability because proven methods exist in 2026. So I'm a tech guy. I'm not going to settle with the cypherpunks in that aspect, but that's okay. I still think Bitcoin is fine. All right. But as you can see, it takes 13 to 18 years to send $1 to everybody on this earth. And it's pretty cool little chart up here. You can see that Solana is pretty quick. Now the fees are actually much lower than most of these as well, but Kita has lower fees and has a smaller time needed. Now, again, I want to advocate on this. Kita is not as proven as these other networks. It is a sub 100 mil market cap project with a ton of risk to it. So I still like it. We're at least doing much better than the Western Bells and the Swifts of the world. And I like to see it. That's why cryptocurrencies are in my opinion, part of the future because they are much more efficient than all these other networks, especially TradFi networks. All right, so we're going to shift gears a little bit here, and then I'll bring it back into altcoin talk after this. But I think it's important. The two things that I want to focus on in this live stream is altcoins and Clarity Act. And the Clarity Act, you have the banks and crypto enthusiasts fighting, and I'll be talking about it later this week in a video of banks versus crypto. So you guys know I love to do my versus videos. I just released Quai versus Kaspa. A couple weeks ago, I did Kita versus XRP. I've done Sui versus Avalanche. I've done a ton of them. And you guys are loving those projects. But crypto versus banks is one that I'm actually going to be dropping later this week. And this guy is saying the banks, they see stablecoins as a direct threat, especially if they're allowed to offer yield. So the banks are seeing crypto as a threat. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hey, they're a threat. Well, they're a threat to the banks, and they're just a turf war as far as they're concerned. They're afraid of this upstart upending them. Well, that's Jamie Dimon's problem. That's not a problem for the economy. It's not a problem for the consumer. And yet, the banking lobby is so strong, their opposition to the Clarity Act, which would allow stablecoins to offer yield, siphoning money from those banks. The banking lobby is pretty strong, and they are likely to win the argument. For the crypto community to say, we don't want any bill unless we can get yield out of stablecoins, I don't think it's the hill to die on.
All right, that's crazy. So, like I said earlier, you have three different pieces of this puzzle. You have Coinbase right in the middle, you have the banks, and then you have crypto. Crypto purists, we're talking Charles Hoskinson, I'll play him in a second. But Coinbase is the one that's held up the Clarity Act right now. And the Clarity Act would have passed if Brian Armstrong did not put his foot down. And people are asking, why did he put his foot down? At first, I was upset about it, but it's really just stablecoin yields. So the banks is essentially, I would say, the most impactful in terms of just moving money globally, right? And that's, a no-brainer. But the biggest threat to the banks is stablecoins. It's not so much like Solana, etc. I would say Bitcoin is going to be second. But I don't think Bitcoin's even a bigger threat to the banks. I think stablecoins are the biggest bank because they can gain that liquidity much faster. So we've already seen over $300 million worth of stablecoins populate across all your favorite chains from Sui to Avalanche to Solana. And we're talking mainly USDC, USDT. Those are your two big ones. But we're starting to see RLUSD pop into the top 10. All these competitors are starting to emerge. And yeah, so the yield is going to be big. Like right now, you can go and get 3.5% passively on USDC on Coinbase. But if you put your money into a Wells Fargo account or a Chase account, there's no savings account that's going to give you that 3.5%. Unless maybe you're some special person where you're able to get some access to some high yield savings account. But it's not going to be the everyday. Somebody with $10 can open a Coinbase account, put it on there, and get 3.5% on their USDC, which is a very low risk instrument. It is backed by safe things like treasuries, etc. So the banks are scared. We have Coinbase, who's playing kind of like, not Switzerland, they're still advocating for something, but they're not advocating for what crypto really needs. So what crypto really needs, let's actually let Charles Hoskinson give this take. This is what it needs.
Irony, guys, is the only group of people holding up the passage of the Clarity Act now is Coinbase, not because of any of these principles. They just want to be able to pay a yield on their stable coin. And they're like, we are fighting for the retail consumer for yield on our stable coin. Okay, so are you supporting Dexus? Okay. Are you supporting things not being a security? Stable coin yield. That's all they're fighting for. That's the whole thing that's setting this whole thing up. It's like this one wedge issue.
That's big because if we're talking clarity, we need way more than just stable coins. We need, so he just threw DeFi out there, for example. For DeFi, there's people like Senator Warren, right, who said we need to have the social security numbers of every single person that one person transacts to the other. So if I send my money to a cousin, I have to report the social security number in accordance with taxes and the IRS. And that is it stifles the innovation of crypto because crypto works with liquidity pools. DeFi does. So we're able to gain passive yield through lending our crypto to these pools. These DeFi activities, they lend it out to other people and they give us yield in return. So that's essentially how these DEXs work. And the Clarity Act, it has to talk about this. When we talk about biggest use cases, borrowing and lending is really second to none. That's what banks do. They borrow and they lend. They use our money. They lend it out to us in loans. And if we're starting to get this Clarity Act of the most disruptive technology of all time, in my opinion, cryptocurrencies and AI is definitely part of that. Yeah, so that's just my thoughts. I think I personally resonate more with Charles Hoskinson in this case. The Clarity Act should not be, what is best for Congress and these people up top. It should be what is best for the American consumer. And we have to mention DeFi. We can't just wait for stablecoin yields. We have to push more and more and more. So I don't think that Charles Hoskinson's salty that his project isn't as big as XRP right now or whatever. I think that he actually has a case. He's making a very brilliant argument on why the Clarity Act should not be passed in its current form. So those are my thoughts. All right. So talked a little bit about that. Let's go back to Wells Fargo. Now, right now, within the banks, you have some of them who are actually thinking about suing the crypto companies. So do not be surprised if you see Goldman Sachs start suing Coinbase, etc. There's just speculation going on. I'm not saying it's confirmed yet, but some of the biggest banks are starting to push towards crypto while others are fighting crypto. And I think it's more or less just to slow down the pace of it because the banks know crypto is going to win in the end. So here's an example of one of the biggest banks, Wells Fargo. It's a top 5 bank, I think, in the United States. And they filed a trademark, WFUSD, covering cryptocurrency and digital asset services. So we know that Morgan Stanley, they just initiated an ETF for Bitcoin. So the banks, many of the banks are getting exposure. The other banks are wanting to slow this down. But at the end of the day, the banks are getting involved, and that's at the top banks. Brian Armstrong recently in Davos talked about how 8 of the top 10 banks are custodied through Coinbase. So we Chase, even I'm sure Wells Fargo, all these biggest banks in the world are already being custodied by Coinbase in particular. So that's pretty huge. And if you want to learn more about Coinbase, wait until Friday because I will be dropping a video on 6 different ways I use it to make $50 a day. So I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of this live stream, so stick around. All right, let's talk about... Actually, okay, so might as well. This is the video that's going to go out later this week. It's Banks versus Crypto. You got your boy Jamie Dimon, you got your boy Brian Armstrong, and I'm going to talk about the highest percentage opportunity for the Clarity Act to pass and why. So that's going to be a pretty cool one. Here's 2 different projects, coming back into altcoins that I really resonate with. You have Kaspa and you have Tao. So what stuck out to me is Yonatan Sampolinsky, for the first time, really, I can really remember, is he said a project by name. And it was really somebody asked him, if you don't know, Yonatan is a founder of Kaspa. He's been pretty adamant about how AI is finding its way into crypto. And somebody asked him about Bittensor Tao. This is another proof of work project. And its tokenomics are very similar to Bitcoin's, but it works with subnets. So you have a couple of different, how do I want to explain this? So within subnets, everything doesn't have to operate on that main layer, which allows scalability to happen. So you sacrifice decentralization for your scalability. And that's what Tao has decided to do, as opposed to Bitcoin being all on that main layer. But the subnets are able to host AI agents, compute networks. They're able to do just really anything that AI can do. In particular, you're able to do LLMs and all these cool things. Over 130, I think 5 subnets at this point, with all individual use cases built in one network. So it's pretty cool. Kaspa, we will see. I'm pretty optimistic. Why did he mention Tao about that? I'm not sure, but these are 2 projects that I hold near and dear. And if you want to learn more about how I find projects in particular, I have a group called the Gem Hunters where we find those low cap gems before they send. Um, we also have two other memberships. We have the Essentials, which is a VIP trading group. If you want to take your trading from rookie to pro, you know, you're able to get in there and ask these people questions. And then we have the Academy where we have trading, about 100 different videos on how to trade, how to build that perfect portfolio, and then lastly, how to do news on macroeconomics. So there you go. If you want to support this channel, the link is in the description of this video. Now, let's go ahead and jump into another segment of Q&A. We'll wrap this up with the last segment of news and then go on about our merry way. Smash that like, says MP. Please, Crux, give us the alpha. All right. I'm just getting started, by the way. I got a little bit more time here with you. What is Kita's all-time high? I think it's like $1.30 or something around there, if I'm not mistaken. It was up there, that's for sure. So welcome in, everybody. I see Baz King, Tao, and Hyper. So I love Hyper Liquid, by the way. We haven't talked much about that one in this live stream. I'm a big fan of Hyper. I'm actually, Crux's take, a bigger fan on Aster than Hyper. I think Aster has the better tokenomics. Hyper is a bigger VC-backed crypto, and VC-backed cryptos, you usually don't want to hold them for their first bull market because it takes a while for that liquidity to distribute, and within its first bear market, those VCs dump. So what I'm waiting right now on Hyper is those VCs to continue dumping. They hold a large portion of those tokens. I want to say over 50% of the tokens go towards our early insiders. The tokenomics of Hype are atrocious. The tokenomics for Aster are beautiful. We're talking buybacks. They have seasons of how people can have like different trading events and then burn tokens in accordance with how those trading events operate. So I definitely like the Aster team. And then if I look at CZ, who is possibly the richest person in the world in accordance with this Bitcoin or with his crypto holdings, he holds 3 known projects: Bitcoin, BNB, Aster. So he's an advisor. Actually, I don't know if he holds Aster, but I know he's an advisor to the Aster team, and he has publicly come out and he's talked highly about it. So think of it as if you created if you created the centralized exchange Binance that does 60% of all trading activity across cryptocurrencies, then how could you not create the best decentralized perp DEX? I think that's a fair question, and I think he knows what he's doing. So I'm going to invest into Aster over Hype, but I hold both projects currently, and I will reduce my DCA as it goes down. All right. So let's continue reading some of these comments. B-Ball. What up, B-Ball? Hope all is well. Yo, Crux, just popping in to say hi. Too much work calls to catch the live. All right, well, you can come back next time or maybe later today, and I'm always here. Thank you for supporting, B-Ball. Appreciate you. Mike, watching in 2x because my girl interrupted, and yeah, you couldn't watch. Well, Mike, definitely take your priority to listen to what she has to say, and then come and listen to Crux because we'll both lead you in the right direction. Ain't that right? All right. Whoa. MP says Kita's all-time high is about $1.74. So it must have been short-lived up there. I don't remember it getting that high. Maybe for a couple days or so. We will see. But yeah, I think Kita will smash through that all-time high well past $3, maybe even $5 this bull market. So a 2x from its previous all-time high, that's not asking for too much. So I would actually like to see it to get to a couple billion market cap. So you're sitting at a sub 100 mil market cap project that has the opportunity to get to multiple billions this next bull market. All right, I see a ton of questions coming in. You guys are loving it. Smash that like, share out to everyone. I agree. If you haven't hit that like button yet, what are you doing? We are going to be one of the fastest growing crypto channels. This next bull run, I'm talking 2029, your boy's going to have 100,000 followers. And I have to manifest into existence. I'm going to talk about a segment of content that I'm about to integrate as early as this week. So Crux is creating more content. I create the static videos, I create the shorts, I create the live streams, and I'm creating more content. And I'm about to explain it here probably in the next 10 minutes or so. So we are growing to be the next Coin Bureau. That's my dream. I want to be the next guy from Coin Bureau. If you know, you know. All right, so Daniel's with me. Let's go to 40K. You're only wanting to go lower if you're prepared, and your boy Crux is prepared. Crux, says Angel. Do you think Say bottomed? As it lowered, then it releases price. If Bitcoin has not bottomed, nothing has bottomed. So Say's not going to go on a miraculous run right now whenever Bitcoin's not doing well. You have these projects like a Canton, for example, that has held up extremely well, that has defied the odds. Like you get these in bull markets as well. So you remember whenever Bitcoin started pulling back from 126K and then Zcash and the privacy narrative project started pumping up and right. It sometimes it happens. I call these seasons in crypto. So Canton's going to have its day the same way that Zcash had its day. Zcash fell like 30% intraday. It was crazy. And it just happens like within certain segments or pockets of crypto, you can make a lot of money on a project, but at the end of the day, they all follow Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin's not doing well for an extended period, they will dump. So if you're holding Canton thinking it's going to keep going up and right while Bitcoin doesn't, you're going to get hurt. And that's just my fair warning. Say is not going to be one of those winners that, at least hopefully within the bear market, it will survive. It has fallen pretty hard. It's had issues getting that massive DApp that can help the project survive. So within cryptocurrency, it's not all about building the right tech. It's about adoption. So if you even look at Cardano, for example, it has built quite a bit of, it just has built solid tech. It just didn't get the adoption piece. So you need that second piece for your network to be the next Solana. And that's what separates Cardano from Solana, is both of them are good techs. Solana is very fast. Cardano is more scalable, or not more scalable. It's more secure and more decentralized. They're both good techs. Solana has the adoption, so we will see. It's more centralized. They were able to garnish quite a bit of money, and with marketing, you're able to do those kinds of things. But also, if you have a token that has unlimited supply, we will see, because tokens could continue being minted and people can get dumped on over time. So, Angel, share Crux video on other social platforms. We all need you to share. I didn't say it, but appreciate you, Angel. I appreciate all the support you give me, sharing my videos on X. I love it. You are awesome for that. Catherine says, you think Walrus from Sui can recover? Catherine, good question. So first of all, I think this is my first time seeing you in here. Welcome. I'm Crux. I'm a fundamental analyst. So Walrus is essentially, it kind of acts as two things for Sui. It's also built by Miston Labs. It acts as a data hub to where you can save like files and stuff like that. But it also is part of its parallel like piece for throughput. So it helps Sui not only scale but also data aggregate. And if you know anything about throughput, if you're able to fit more pieces of, like, let's say more transactions per block, it increases the throughput. So I think that double piece for Walrus, especially since it is backed by Miston Labs, it is one of the ones that will help it survive. In terms of the best risk to reward for Sui, that ecosystem, I'd go Sui is number one. It's going to be the one that has the lowest probability of failing. Next, I would go probably Deepbook. So I'd go Sui, Deepbook, which is its Clob. It's essentially like its Jupiter of Solana. It helps with like pushing certain. It's an order book for helping exchanges find the best yields for liquidity and forming those pools. And then you have, I would go Walrus, and then I'd go Ica. So Walrus, WAL, you just asked about that. That's probably the third. Ica is the fourth. These are all big parts of the foundational piece of how Sui scales, and they're all implemented or created by Miston Labs. So I always invest in teams, and I think how do you say his name? Adesanya or something is the founder of Sui. He came from Facebook. He is a brilliant man. He created the Move programming language, and it is awesome. So, all right, let's see. PETA is king on speed. PETA is very fast because two things. It's a DAG, and there's not too many transactions yet happening on the network. So that's a big piece. So also, I would say it's very centralized. So it uses Google's cloud to help its throughput, and take with that what you will. XRP is very centralized as well. So if you want to be the best of the best, especially if you're going to work with banks, you have to be centralized. All right, Dean. Oh, hey, mods. Your boy Dean in house. What up, brother? I hope you're doing well. I'm not going to dox your location either. There's a whole bunch of people living in cold places. Let's just say that. So love to see you, Dean. What up, brother? Just we got some OGs up in here. How are y'all doing? Eric. So Eric is like the OG of OGs. What do you think about Edel Finance Crux? It makes moves. Just became a validator for Canton. Okay, and added Brad Class to the team. Very good questions, Eric. I didn't get like any time to prepare for this. Usually I'm pretty good at being able to respond off the cuff. This must have just happened. Edel Finance. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look then. Boom. Come over here. If they're on CoinGecko, I'll give them a chance. Maybe it's a centralized, or maybe it's a TradFi. Yeah. So if it's a TradFi company, that would make sense on how they're going to be the ones running the validators. Because you have like entities like a Coinbase, for example, that runs a validator through Canton to help with the decentralization process. I don't even know who Brad Class is. So, Eric, I'm not too equipped right now, but what I can do is I can answer your question in the Discord. We could actually DM it, which would probably be easier, or on Twitter, whichever is easier. But I'm going to have to look into that for you a little bit later. But again, I do think Canton is a very good project. Eric, if you missed my, about 10 minutes ago, I talked about how I think the price is manipulated. Over time, you have these pockets of activity. You have Zcash, who does very well with privacy narratives in Q4 of last year. And then it just ends up following Bitcoin. Everything ends up following Bitcoin. So if you're able to stay all-time highs for a very long time, if Bitcoin does not continue going up and right, you're going to fall. So I think Canton right now is just highly manipulated for price activity. And we will see. But I also love bear markets because they essentially, they wipe out that VC activity. And a lot of the people that invested early on, they're going to sell either at break even or at a profit as it's going down. So we want that, we want the capital or those tokens to be in the hands of people like you and me, as opposed to the VCs and dumped over time. So that's why I like bear markets. I think they're very healthy overall. And if you have dry powder, you could take advantage of these opportunities. So Mr. J says the same thing. Any thoughts on Edel or Venice? I don't know. This must have just happened. How do I not know this stuff? Low market cap too. Okay. Angel, thank you, Crux. They are using Robinhood. Sounds good. Okay. All right. Well, you guys keep on throwing those questions in there. Let's jump into another segment of news, and we'll wrap it up with one last segment of Q&A. So, do I want to... Yeah. All right. So we'll talk a little bit about macroeconomics because I think this plays a huge role in the current state of markets in general. Let's start up actually with oil. So I think it's this one. Earlier today, oil crashed 33% from $119 to $80 since yesterday. But then same Twitter account, Crypto Rover, oil prices are up 12% in the past hour. So oil is extremely volatile. And remember, crypto is a volatile asset. It's only going to do well. Yeah, so crypto is only going to do well if the overall markets are doing well. It's always going to act in accordance with its risk level, right? So gold does well in off-risk environments. Crypto does well in on-risk environments. Bitcoin does typically the best in terms of if you go like bearish, but if you go bullish, usually altcoins do better. This last bull run's a little weird because Bitcoin did a 8.5x from 15.5 to 126K. And then projects like Chainlink, etc., did not do as well. So people are starting to ask, Crux, what is going on with these altcoins? Why are you still bullish about it? Why are you wearing a Doge shirt? Why do you have Sui up here? It's because I personally believe in the story of what crypto is. Sorry, my alarm went off. I personally believe in crypto as a whole. That's why I believe in Charles Hoskinson over there fighting on behalf of DeFi, as opposed to Brad Garlinghouse over here fighting on behalf of the banks. It's because I want crypto, I want DeFi, I want the cypherpunks to win, not how do I get rich quick with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's fine, hit escape velocity. It is your best risk to reward. My current holdings, Bitcoin actually has the most of my holdings. So I'm a very big believer of Bitcoin. But again, my funds need to go into projects I personally resonate with. But let's go ahead and move on and talk a little bit about the macro side of these things, because I think it's getting worse than it's getting better, but very volatile in a sense. Let's hear what this guy has to say.
I emerged from this briefing as dissatisfied and angry, frankly, as I have from any past briefing in my 15 years in the Senate. I am left with more questions than answers, especially about the cost of the war. My questions have been unanswered, and I will demand answers because the American people deserve to know. And I guess I am most concerned about the threat to American lives of potentially deploying our sons and daughters on the ground in Iran. We seem to be on a path toward deploying American troops on the ground in Iran to accomplish any of the potential objectives here.
All right, that's pretty big. If for those that don't know, like we're talking about like escalation of force here. We had our Navy, we had our Air Force get involved. Once you have boots on the ground, it is a whole different story. So we've seen the price of oil be extremely volatile. These are the type of things that influence the price of oil. Oil influences how risk markets work. So I think that's the most up-to-date take is right there is the people at the top are unsure what's going on. People don't know how to play these markets. I still personally think 2026 is just it's a doom year. It falls perfectly in line with the crypto's 4-year cycles. Moving into Q3 of this year, Bitcoin should be closer to 40K, and all of this can play out. Just it's wild how accurate this stuff can be. The 4-year cycle's 4 for 4. It's untested. Well, it's unmatched, and there's really no other theory in crypto that exists that's more prominent than the 4-year cycle. So I just wanted to wrap up how all of these macro conditions play within how crypto works as a whole. So as long as Bitcoin's doing well, crypto does well, vice versa. If crypto's doing bad or Bitcoin's doing bad, then all your altcoins are getting smashed. So, all right. I alluded earlier about a change in some of the content that I'm going to make. In this case, I'm actually adding more content. So what I plan on doing is doing one short every single morning. So Sunday to Sunday, your boy's releasing a short. This is coming from pre-made content, but as you can see up there, we have 3 new shorts coming on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This is going to be a new segment called Crux's Quick Take. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start each of these shorts, and it's going to be like Crux's Quick Take. Here's 5 altcoins that I'm thinking about buying because of this, this, and this. So within 90 seconds, I'm going to give a quick take, and I think it's a cool way to not only keep you guys informed, but also increase visibility across all the best platforms from YouTube to Instagram to TikTok. So as a content creator, I have to grow. And that's my best way forward is Crux's Quick Take. And I think you guys are really going to love it. And really to find these, what you can do, you can go to the description of any of my YouTube videos and you'll see like X, TikTok, and Instagram. So TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube are going to be my 3 big winners for this type of content. But TikTok and Instagram in particular, you'll be one of the first 100 to follow, and you'll get these takes. I'm talking 10 shorts per week, a ton of content, and it's all coming free. So if you want to stay on top of not just altcoins, but Bitcoin in particular, here you go. And then the live streams are going to still be here, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard. Once we get back into a bull market, I'll be live streaming every day. At least probably Monday through Friday. So live streams are typically good for bullish activity. Now, channels like mine are very rare because you guys are very optimistic. If you listen to like any other content creator, you would have people in their comments saying, all of this is going to zero, blah, 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 blah. So what I built here at the Crux of Crypto are believers of crypto. And I love it. I love the fact that we're able to be optimistic. I have the green lights out today, because we love to see altcoins at lower prices because we can lower those DCAs if they're going to return. So it's just cool what we're building here. So I'm very happy with you guys. And if you want to take a screenshot or check this out later, you can see all the different times that I will be going live. All right, and then lastly, this is going to be a video that releases probably tomorrow. So right after this, I'm about halfway through the script. I need to do a little bit more research, but on this video here, I'm going to explain 6 different ways how I make $50 per day using the Coinbase app. So I think most of you guys have access to Coinbase, and I'm sure you're all going to say, and most people are going to like click on this video thinking like, you have to have a ton of money to make this $50 a day, whatever. And I'll be honest, a couple of these methods, you do have to have high capital. But I will definitely take into consideration the people that don't have high capital and are willing to risk. So this is what it's all about, risk to reward. If you're willing to risk high amounts of capital, then you should be rewarded with high amounts of capital. But if you have low amounts, you should be able to make high amounts if you have that higher risk. So that's how I plan on shaping this Coinbase video, only using Coinbase, no other exchange. I mean, you could use these same strategies for any other exchange for the most part. A couple of them are Coinbase specific, but how I make $50 in a bear market, by the way, every single day using this exchange. So definitely, I think about you guys a lot. I think it's important because, you know, so as a content creator, especially in my first bull run, I don't have to be here. Like I was in your place last bull market. I was watching all of Ben Armstrong's and around the blockchains, and I was here every single day. So I know exactly how you guys feel, and that's why I feel like I'm going to be a successful creator, because I know what you guys are thinking. So if I'm able to tailor this type of content like Coinbase to you, then your guys are going to be able to make a lot out of crypto, just like the way I have. So I've hit financial freedom because of crypto, and I'm going to continue to push, not because of my own personal bags, but because of I actually believe the future of crypto and you guys. So again, our community here is awesome. Let's go ahead and wrap it up on a couple of different questions, and then we'll go on about our bright and beautiful day. All right, so Eric is saying Brad Kloss is ex-BlackRock, ex-Bank of America, ex-PNB. Dang, so these are some massive institutions. Now doing Franklin Templeton and Edel as the strategic advisor, right? Yeah, so Eric, I think visionaries are second to none really to invest in. If Elon Musk goes and creates an ice cream company, I'm going to invest in the ice cream company. Not because he knows about ice cream, but I believe in Elon Musk. So I think that's definitely a good sign, is him coming to Canton. Canton, that is a centralized platform, but it's okay. Not everything has to be decentralized. I would say this is my one thing I don't like about it, but it's also a perk, is it is a private network. So Crux cannot go on the back end and see how much TVL is locked within these. They say that like tens of trillions of dollars are already locked in that network, and I would definitely disagree with that. I don't think that's true. And I have to personally see stuff on chain if I verify it. So what I do is I don't count it as zero, but I don't count it as certain. I say, okay, they might be right about it. But I will never know because it's a private network. And these institutions, anonymity is their right. We should not force everything to be public. Otherwise, privacy networks would have no value. And that, Bitcoin essentially, it's not exactly the most private, but it is a pretty private network. All right, let's see. Not to continue to expand upon it, but Edel is DeFi for real world assets. Okay, so it's DeFi for real world assets. You can use tokenized stocks as collateral for loans. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so it's just going to be another competitor to, Ondo Finance and these other ones. But here's my question, Eric, is through regulation, none of these platforms really allow people to use these things yet for loans. Like Coinbase, for example, I'll talk about it on my video that drops later this week. You are allowed to use your crypto for loans. DeFi, you can use your crypto for loans. In terms of stocks, stocks are securities, so they are treated different than commodities. And that's where the kind of the hiccup is. Like, if the American people don't get it, then I think that's your biggest market, right? So even Ondo Finance, a lot of the products on Ondo, such as USDY or OUSG, American people don't have access to it. So really, we're waiting on this clarity. I think the Clarity Act is going to set a lot of things straight. But again, even the Clarity Act, we're talking like stablecoin yields. We're not like going too in depth on DeFi. But what I think it does do is something not being in the bill is a win for crypto. What do I mean by this? So if the Clarity Act does pass and we don't have anything about DeFi in it, we know that DeFi is still going to be usable in its current form. So I think just no information is it's a win. It's just not what exactly we want. We want DeFi to be prosperous at the highest level with full clarity, and it will take time for all that. Brian says another great show, Crux. When you get as big as Guy, make sure you stay in Texas. It might be safer than Dubai. Yeah, so I am a Texan at heart. The only time I lived outside of Texas was in Kuwait. I spent some time in the Philippines. I mean, I did a ton of traveling, but the military is the only reason I've been outside of Texas. And I've lived in a ton of different locations, but it was all because of the military. So Texas is the best country in the world. Yes, I did say country. And this will always be my home. Okay, I'll throw a little caveat on this. Unless an opportunity exists with me, T-Shroom, and Tim, and we figure some, like, I mean, Dallas, Texas, honestly, sounds like the best plausible action for even us. But Florida would probably be the only other state that I'm willing to move to. And again, that's if I get to those levels of Guy from Coin Bureau. So Mike says, drop the Coinbase vid ASAP. Sounds like a good one. Yep. If you're just tuning in, 6 different ways I personally make $50 per day using the Coinbase app. So Robinhood is working on it, believe, but don't quote me on that. Any thoughts on the TX ecosystem? Scott, are you talking about the Texas token? Because I'm pretty sure they actually are facing a huge lawsuit right now. What's it called? I forgot. So Texas they actually have their own blockchain. It's crazy. They have their own blockchain, and it's supposed to be for Texas residents only, whatever, which actually defies every single piece of logic that blockchains are. They're supposed to be decentralized for everybody. Anyways, I don't know if that's what you mean by any thoughts of the Texas ecosystem. Dean says manifest. I'm behind 20 minutes. Right. Yeah. So Dean, I'm manifesting it into existence. I will be 100,000. I want the plaque. The plaque's going to go right here. You guys know exactly what that silver YouTube plaque looks like. It's going right here. It's your boy Crux. The only thing that's stopping this channel from going viral is the price of crypto. I'm telling you, those breakdowns that you see, like my Kaspa versus Quai breakdown the other day, there's nobody on this platform that is as informed on general crypto projects as Crux. And I'll put it against anybody. And not to call Guy out in particular, but even if we went toe to toe, no notes, no nothing, I write my own scripts. I do everything other than the editing. So I don't do the editing on my static videos. Everything else comes from me. And that's all from white papers. That's from extensive research on Twitter and all these other things. And I share it to you guys. I think that's the way that I want to build this platform, is not say I'm Kaspa only, I'm Doge only, I'm Sui only. I'm talking about Canton, Ondo. I'm talking about Bitcoin. I'm talking about Solana, XRP, Sui, all of it. I'm talking about all of it. And I don't want cults to be built here because crypto is bigger than cults. Yep, you're a beast, bro. And like I said the other day, you remain professional always, even when dealing with the bad actors. You will do great. Yeah, thank you, Eric. I mean, that's a huge notch on my belt because Eric Wallen is known as a troll. So for those that don't know, Eric, he goes on other X's and other YouTube comments, and especially there's some people in the Cardano ecosystem. I'm not going to drop names, but he gives them a hard time, and it's just tough love. So Eric, every now and then you come at me. I appreciate it. It's just engagement. It's actually healthy. I learn more from the people that disagree with me than the people that are yes men. So I don't want to surround myself with yes men, but if I look at the comments of any of my videos, 99% of it is just good stuff. Like, you guys love this content, and that's why I like to produce it. So Centrifuge says Juby. Yeah, so Centrifuge is actually a top that's a good one. I wonder if rwa.xyz will work right now. Give me one sec. rwa.xyz. So sometimes they ask me to sign in and do all this weird stuff. I'm not doing it. So view analytics. This is the top platform for real world assets on crypto. Over here on the left hand side, you'll see commodities, institutional funds, etc. If I look at maybe it's commodities, centrifuge. No. Let's look at institutional funds. All right, so centrifuge is there. They're at number 2. They only have 2 different RWAs, but it's almost $800 million worth. So they're right under securitize. I'm pretty sure that's really it. Is there just going to be the institutional fund section? The stocks is mainly going to be your Ondos and your X stocks. This is going to be a video I'm dropping next week. You guys are going to love this one. Ondo versus X stock. And we're talking about what is the best way to tokenize your assets. And I mean, we'll also see, because Eric Wallen just threw a wrench in there. What if you throw in this other DeFi platform that allows you to tokenize your stocks and borrow and lend against it? I'll tell you right now, these are the 2 big winners. X stock had the first mover advantage. Ondo in 6 months has tokenized $600 million in value. Let me say that again. Ondo in 6 months, over 200 different real world assets, from Tesla to Nvidia to all your favorite stocks, the S&P 500. You can now not go through brokerages or all these other platforms. You can now do DeFi. It's crazy. It is crazy that these things exist, especially X stock. But Ondo is a big winner so far. And, you know, just because I said that doesn't mean don't watch the video. I'm actually going to look heavily into these because it's important on not only who has the highest value, but who gets access to these. Because again, X stocks is going to be more decentralized than Ondo. So remember, it's not always about the highest TVL or whatever. It's also about things like interoperability, user access, and these things. All right, let's read 2 more questions and we will wrap this thing up. Florida is too damn hot, says Mike Jr. Yeah, the mugginess in Florida, man. So every quarter I go to Florida. Me, Tim, T-Shroom, Smay, we all link up. We play golf. I don't play, so I'm pretty bad at golf, I'll be honest. I'm more out of there for like motivational support. I'm super, like, not to like to talk too highly. I'm a fit person, and I'm really good at almost like any other sport. I played D1 rugby. I played sports growing up. Golf is so humbling because it's way bigger than just being athletic. So if somebody who's fast goes to play football, just give them the ball and they can run pretty quickly, at least, you know, so they'll be somewhat effective. They won't exactly be able to run people over or these other things, but there's a use for them. Golf is like somebody who's like 80 years old who knows how to hit that ball will do better than that person who's weightlifting every day, who's doing CrossFit, doing pull-ups, doing all that stuff. It's such a humbling sport. And the only time I really play is around Tim, T-Shroom, and etc. So it's pretty funny. I'm like, we need to go like bowl or play basketball or do something because I can't take these L's every time. So, but yeah, it's pretty hot out there. We're getting all bit up. Scott says, no merger between these 2 different ones. Those are 2 like low cap alts, Scott. Maybe in the Discord you can ask me about those. I'm not going to talk about them on live. Juby, I talked about centrifuge. All right. What could be Quai top, says Daniel. So Quai is only a 1-year-old proof of work network, and I think there's potential there. So just quick spoiler, it did lose to Kaspa in my proof of work showdown for scaling a proof of work network. So that's something to consider. But I think Quai is the second best option. Between their zones, their regions, and their shards, they have a pretty cool network on how they scale a proof of work network. And they have a couple brilliant leaders over there. So there's potential there. I wouldn't hold over 1% of my portfolio in that one either. Kaspa is clearly the better buy for me. It won 8 out of 11 of my different critical categories for a matchup. But I think Quai has potential. Why not, right? Any project in its first year that survives a bear winter, by the way, it didn't get the full bull run and it has to go through the full bull bear winter. It's gonna have a big test ahead of it. So centrifuge is like 3rd, says Eric. Yeah, centrifuge is pretty dope. I like it. Eric, if you get the chance sometime, look at the top 10 RWAs by actual revenue. Ondo is looting that too. Then Link, then Centrifuge. Kita is at 5. Really? Kita's at 5. Crazy. That's a good talking point for my next Kita video that I'll probably drop in a couple weeks. So appreciate you, Aaron, for sharing that alpha with you, boy. We are 80 minutes past the hour. So you guys are awesome. I have 36 of you still in here that still want to listen to you, boy. So that's pretty cool. I'd listen to channels with over 100,000 subscribers, and they're having issues getting just 100 people. So, you know, a channel the size of mine is doing extremely successful. And it's only because you guys have high conviction to your boy Crux. And I'm trying to lead you guys to the promised land, the holy grail of gains here in the crypto, which does involve altcoins, by the way. So Bitcoin is king. The best risk to reward in all of crypto is Bitcoin. You should be holding more Bitcoin than everything else. Altcoins are opportunities to be able to surpass Bitcoin, but you could take profits and acquire more Bitcoin. So that's why we play those. And then I guess last words is I think we have lower to go, down and right from here all the way into Q3 of this year. And I will not be swapping my assessment on that. I'm about 70% probable. If the Clarity Act passes and we start to see price action above 80K, I'll probably switch to about 60% in terms of probability that we're still in bear winter. But the 4-year cycle is just insane how accurate this thing is. So, you know, as early as October, we could see that 40K Bitcoin, and you can own a piece of digital Manhattan. Digital Manhattan. We're talking about 1920 when it was super cheap. And if you know anything about Manhattan now, it is one of the toughest zip codes or area codes to get any exposure to real estate, and you are part of it. So anytime you can get Bitcoin sub 50K, we're talking about a 5, possible 10 plus $1 million asset in the next like 20, 30 years. And you are in that period. You know, it's wild. So I love being here, and I appreciate you guys sharing my content. Again, go in the description. I have a Instagram and a TikTok, and I'll be dropping 3 shorts per week, Crux's quick takes. 90-second shorts on my current state. It's the best way to stay up to date on the current way the markets are moving.